got women on your mind. Have a drink, have a drive, go out and see what you can find. If a daddy's rich, take her out for a meal. If a daddy's poor, just do what you feel. Speed along the lane, you can down or a turn of 25. When the sun goes down, you can make it good and live by. When I grab people, when I dirty, when I mean, we love everybody, but we do as we please. When the weather's fine, we go fishing or go sailing in the sea. We're always happy, lives we're living, yeah, that's our philosophy. Sing along with us, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, da-da-da-da-da, yeah, we're happy, da-da-da, dee-da-da-dee-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da, right on, da-da-da-da-da-da. All right. Soon be summertime and we'll sing again. We go driving or maybe we'll settle down. If she's rich, if she's nice, bring your friends and we'll all go into town. See what you can find. If a daddy's rich, take her out for a meal. If a daddy's poor, just do what you feel. Speed along the lane, you can turn or a turn of 25. When the sun goes down, you can make it good and live by. When I grab people, when I dirty, when I mean, we love everybody, but we do as we please. When the weather's fine, we go fishing or go sailing in the sea. We're always happy, lives we're living, yeah, that's our philosophy. Sing along with us, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, da-da-da-da-da, yeah, we're happy, da-da-da, dee-da-da-dee-da-da-da-da.
All right, and welcome aboard, everybody. It is Thursday night with yours truly, Joe Quills, the Philly guy here. Philly guy speaks. Ooh, excuse me. Welcome aboard. Burping something I scarfed down real quickly because that 15 minutes I have goes fast, and I'm used to it with my job where after 15 minutes you got to make sure you're plugged in, and even of this. I can get away with starting a couple of minutes late, but I'm starting right on time there. Welcome in, Mickey. Welcome in, Penguin AZ. Last Fires game tonight. And as Mickey says, then the shit show will be all over. Thank God. But we'll see what happens with the Flyers. Hopefully they can win the lottery. I got a better chance of winning the lottery than the Flyers do, to tell you the truth. But another team that will be in the lottery for the first time they did have that 1 year where they did get Sidney Crosby, where everybody was in the playoffs, or everybody was in the lottery because it was like a short year or something. I forget what it was, but let me give one to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Because for the first time in 17 years, we do not have to see Sissy Crosby and those other Pittsburgh Pigeons play playoff hockey. And, if my team can't make it into the Stanley Cup Finals, then thank God the Pittsburgh Penguins are not in there either. Even though I feel like the New York Rangers are more of a rival than the Flyers, but that's a topic for another day. But so last night it was a situation where if the Penguins, if the Islanders won, they got in, which was what happened. And if the Penguins lost, the Islanders lost, I believe, in regulation, then Pittsburgh would have leapfrogged them into that final wild card spot. So congratulations, Islanders. You now got the Boston Bruins, where you're going to lose in 4 straight probably, but we'll see what happens. But that's a crazy stat because the team that had been in the playoffs, their league's playoffs, the most consecutive years of the 4 major sports, their streak has been broken. Thank you, Ron Hextall, because he is bringing down the Penguins organization just like he brought down the Flyers organization, which was on its way down to dumpster fire level before that. But but the new guy in charge, Hilferty or whatever his name is, I saw the other day that he's getting away from the incestuous relationship that the organization has with their alumni. So thank God. Hopefully we can get some winners in there. And the Blackhawks are out. Yeah, the Flyers and the Blackhawks were both eliminated at the start of the season. That's how bad both teams are. But yeah, so we'll talk a little bit of baseball here. Some things that, it's going to be like, a couple of these topics are going to be, hey, didn't Joe talk about that? If you remember at the start of the season, I was talking about Bryce Harper and playing first base. I'll give you thoughts on that. Tuesday night, I was talking about the some teams are starting to make the last call for alcohol the 8th inning instead of the end of the 7th. Well, apparently if Philly thinks it's a bad idea, I'm not sure if he heard my podcast on Tuesday night, but I'll give you some thoughts on that. There's a new candidate for the MLB expansion. Did not expect this city to be in there, but it does make sense, and we'll get to that as well. And whatever you want to talk about as well. We'll shoot the shit, and we'll go from there. And just to let you guys know, this is more geared towards the this is geared more towards those that are listening on the podcast or you're watching on YouTube. Come on over to nofilter.net every Tuesday and Thursday. I start at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:15 Pacific. Other parts of the country and world, you got to figure it out. Sorry, I'm not that smart, even though I claim to be the 3% of the smartest people in the world, or in the United States, which isn't saying much in my opinion. But all right, maybe 4%, but you get the idea. But so well, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on my audio podcast, which I upload after the end of the show, if you come on the video, if you're watching the video or you're listening, we have this thing called the knocker room. No, it's not the knocker room where you get to see some woman with some great jugs. It's a room where you enter this room of the great unknown, almost like a green room, almost like the green room at that guy. That show that's on later, 12:30 in the morning Eastern Time, whatever it is. Who cares? He's going after a couple more months anyways, so who gives a shit? You go into the knocker room. I'll see an alert that you want to talk to me. And, if it's certain people, I may ignore you because I'm a dick. All right, I won't. I'm haven't done that yet. Won't do it. I promise. But either way, you hit that fister. I didn't even kiss her. That fist is usually on the bottom right hand side. You hit that. I bring you in. We talk. We have fun. Kind of like what Peg and AZ did on Tuesday night, except he didn't fist me because he realizes that I'm exit only. But anyways, as I'm getting offensive here because I had a rough couple of days here, and if you saw my Insta story, which is my Facebook story, last 2 days have been pure hemorrhoidal flare up, so to speak. All started yesterday morning, and I don't start work till 1 o'clock, and I work from home, so I have that advantage. So I can get things done in the morning because, well, if I'm up, I gotta move around. So I realized, shit, I gotta go to the store because if I don't go to the store today, meaning yesterday, Wednesday, I'm not going to the store tomorrow, which would have been today, Thursday, and then we would have had a new week of sales. So I decided, you know what? Let me get to the store. And let me tell you, if it ain't one person that annoys me, it's the entire fucking store. Now, I have two supermarkets right next to each other, basically. There's the Acme, or what some people in the Philly area, those that have speech impediments or just plain special, they call it Acme. So if you ever hear Acme from anybody in my area, they mean Acme, which is the supermarket here, which is owned by Albertsons. And there's Giant. So I needed a couple of things, and I knew that I'd get back quicker if I went to Acme. So I go around the store, no problems. Everything's okay. I'm like, all right, well, I'll be able to get in and out real quick, and I'll be back home by 12 o'clock or 11:30, 11:45, whatever time it was, get checked out. And I had over 10 items, so I couldn't go in the express lane because there's always this one idiot that's like, oh, you have more than 10 items, you can't come here. And I was there the one night and I had 5 items. Person in front of me got pissed because this guy who's about 5'3" said, I'm going to show that I can count higher than 10. See, I have a problem with what comes after 11-teen, but but that last week, the guy came up. This was actually about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. Guy didn't like that. The guy that's monitoring the self checkout aisle, which I hardly ever use. Guy goes, oh, you can't come in this line. You have more than 10 items. And he had a good 15, 20 items. So guy looks at him funny, or at least I think he is because I'm behind him. Goes, can't come in here. 10, you have more than 10 items. The guy's pissed, pushes the cart to the side, hits something, I think, and walks away because you're inconveniencing me because I don't know how to read, or I'm pretending not to read because I want to get out of here quickly because, oh, you can let me get away with a couple extra items. Oh, well, sucks to be you. Well, I try most of the time to go through a cashier, through a manned cashier or woman cashier. But you get the idea. Man isn't, in this case, isn't a male-female thing. It's just a verb. But I'm looking at the 4 lines. And Now, there's one cashier I will not go to because she's an ignorant asshole. But thankfully, she was walking around the store, but she wasn't clocked in yet. So apparently, when I was there, it must have been who can check customers out the slowest, because these are all small orders. So it was like 8 items here, 10 items there. But it took forever for a cashier to get these orders, get them bagged, get them done, get them out to the car, get them on their way. Now, when I was at the supermarket I was at 25, 30 years ago, I suggested, but union wouldn't go for it because then you're putting an extra qualifier to it, and the cashiers didn't like it because the cashiers that I used to work with, they used to just wander around and do nothing, and I was the only one taking customers because they're too busy playing around. But going back to yesterday, I get in line, I put my stuff in. I had about 15 things, so I couldn't use the express lane, but I could have if I tried, but I didn't feel like dealing with that bullshit. So I get in line, I find the shortest line, and they were all about 4, 5, 6 people deep. So I start putting my stuff up. Finally, I get up there. And there's a person in front of me, too. So there's nowhere for me to go. And this old Asian guy bumps my cart forward, hits my leg because, he can't put his shit up, his 3 items. Now, granted, I don't expect him to go to the express lane because, he's, whatever. He's old, he's handicapped, because he had something going on, because I could tell that he was slurring words, like he had some sort of maybe a stroke or something. So I'm kind of giving the benefit of the doubt. So now if it was somebody who was younger, somebody who could have given me that I could have had a comment and actually be more of a man than telling some 90-year-old guy, what the fuck are you doing? But contrary to what Mickey thought on Tuesday, I was not gaseous at the store, so I couldn't fart on him, because trust me, if I farted on him, I would have killed him. But I would have been like, hey, natural body function, can't do anything about that. But yeah, he started bumping my thing. He bumped me like 2 or 3 times, and then the person in front of me wanted a price check because she couldn't read the tags right, because she thought something was on sale when it wasn't. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. So I got back in playing at time, but it was like everything was batshit crazy. So, and then everything went downhill from there. People screaming at me the last 2 days, taking calls, and the full moon, the new moon is not till next Thursday. And I'm a firm believer that even though the people go crazy with the full moon, people are extra nasty when that new moon comes around. It's something that I found over the last 10, 15 years, especially at the job that I have. So all I can do is say, you know what? Got to deal with this bullshit. And I did. So, but yeah, so a little story time there to begin the show. Let's get to it here. Let's get to some baseball. Actually, no, let's go to football news. And we have a new commander in chief. No, Joe Biden didn't die and Kamala Harris took over. Not even Kamala the Ugandan giant. Remember him? By the way, Kamala the Ugandan giant died a couple of years ago. Right at the start of the presidential process. I was like, damn it. Because I was saying, my plan was, I'm voting for Kamala, even though I wasn't, just to fuck around with people, because, all the MAGA people and all that shit, people from the left throwing their shit toward the MAGAs throwing their shit back to the left. whatever. But yeah, I was going to be like, hey, I'm voting for Kamala, but it was Kamala Uganda Giant, but he died before we got deep into the election process. So, but we do have a new commander in chief or commander in chief pending as the Washington Commanders. See, like that? The Washington Commanders, um, Dan Snyder has reached a preliminary non-exclusive agreement to sell the franchise to a group led by Josh Harris, who owns teams also in the NBA and NHL, namely the Sixers and the Devils. So in other words, he started with the Sixers, then he goes into the New York or New Jersey metropolitan market and gets the Devils a piece of it or whatever he has there. And now he's going to annoy Philly fans even more because he's got the Commanders now. So why not buy the Pittsburgh Pirates next? Don't give him any ideas. It'll probably happen. And all the Flyers fans will be going batshit crazy because they think the Penguins are the only rival for the Flyers. The only rival for the Flyers over the last couple of years is winning. Not Charlie Sheen's winning, but the cost is going to be $6.05 billion. That's $billion with a B. And it's going to top the previous record sale of a franchise, which was led by Walmart heir Rob Walton, who bought the Broncos for $4.65 billion. A group led by Daniel Snyder purchased the Washington franchise in 1999 for $800 million. So he's making some money. He's doing it with some controversy. But hi, Elaine. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here tonight. We'll see what happens here, because now this deal is going to include FedEx Field in Landover and the team's practice facility in Ashburn, Virginia. Commanders have been looking for a new stadium in the DC area, but it's Harris Blitzer Sports Entertainment. They own the Sixers. They own the Jersey Devils. Harrison Blitzer also owned Crystal Palace, which is in the English Premier League. So got all kinds of... Oh, GWK, welcome aboard, man. As you can tell, I did not recognize that name, but GWK, he's a loyal... he's a loyal follower of the Philly Guy Speaks, listens to all my podcasts. I feel sorry for him. He's used to my humor, so I can get away with saying that. And, he's a great person, follows me, always gives me constructive criticism, which I appreciate. And, we need to get you... we need to get you squared away on that. Either you would use your own account, or you can change the name on you can change the name on the main, I think it's the main page, I think it is. Now I'm going to look because I'm looking to help you guys out. And the information that you would change on here would be specific to this page only. It won't be anything. Okay. I found it. So okay, here it is. So I'm going to show you how to change the name if you ever have to change it, especially. Thank you so much, GWK. I do appreciate that. And I'm going to show you, especially for those that are watching on YouTube and want to come over here, they want to hide their identity because we are pro witness protection program. Let me show you here. First, I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So here's the main page, and you have the most recent videos here. There, you go to upcoming screens, and you see all the different shows here. Eric Burns, former MLB player, he's got a show here. AJ Johnson, he's got a couple different shows. Gerald Contreras. Looks like no Tony Bruno show tomorrow night. So I don't even see the last call as well. But Gerald Contreras, he's a good horse racing guy. He knows his stuff. But what I'm showing you here is you go under my profile, and I am going to stop sharing for a second. But you would click personal settings. I'm going to reshare this only because I wanted to clear my phone number, even though it's not that big of a deal. I could just block your ass if you harass me. Okay, so you would go onto the screen after you hit my profile, and then you click on there. And right there where it says username alias, that's where you can change your screen name to wherever you want it to be. And it will be for this site only. So don't worry about it if you're using somebody else's account and you're you're not going to mess up their Google account, for example, because I linked everything up through Google, obviously, because Google is the shit. But you got the so that's a little lesson for everybody that's watching, even those that are watching after the fact here on YouTube, or you're listening on the podcast. Refer to the video, or you can go to nofilter.net after the fact, and my videos are archived, so we go from there. So, and thank you, GWK. Hopefully that helped you there with everything here. So wanted to point that out. So it's a simple thing, and I didn't change any of mine. So glad to help you, GWK. So Tampa Bay's now 13-0. No, not the Bucks, the Tampa Bay Rays. They haven't played anybody. This is like the Pittsburgh Steelers a couple of years ago, the pandemic season when they started 11-0. I mean, you look at who they played so far, and I'm going to pull up their first four games here, or first four series. Their first four series were Detroit Tigers at home, at Washington, and then at home for Oakland, and then Boston. Detroit right now is 2-9. Washington's 4-9, tied for the Phillies for last place. I'm not going to talk about the Phillies in terms of their play recently. I'm trying to detox that out of my head. Boston's now 5-8, and Oakland's 3-10. So they haven't necessarily played a murderer's row of opponents so far. Now they did tie the modern era record, which was since 1900 for consecutive wins to start a season. They tied it. 82 Braves and the 87 Brewers won 13 in a row. The only longer streak in professional baseball was a 20-0 start by the 1884 St. Louis Maroons of the Union Association. Not the Union League of Philadelphia, which is on South Broad Street, but the Union Association, some league that existed long before my family probably came to America. I know my mom's side didn't get here to the early 1900s, um, but um, they're destroying everything they see right now. They've outscored opponents 101 to 30 so far. So it's a little bit of everything. It's winning. It's blowout wins left and right, and it's a good team beating up on a bad team, which you're supposed to do. When should we bet against them? Tomorrow? I would say tomorrow, because guess what? They got to play Toronto in Toronto. Hopefully that happens, because if not, I'm going to look like an idiot. Like, isn't hard to do. But yeah, they've been destroying everything they see. They've been the Ivan Drago of baseball. If you remember Ivan Drago, his trainer or drug dealer, or whatever you want to call him in Rocky IV, what he sees, he destroys. That's what Tampa Bay's doing right now. And I'll tell you what, it just happens that way. And, the way baseball is, and my one friend said this perfectly. He said after the Phillies lost opening day, oh, well, we weren't going to go 162-0. In baseball, you win 60, you lose 60. It's about those other 42 games. Now, I'll argue 50, 50, and 62, or 55, 55, and 52, but you get the idea. There's always games that you're going to lose, no matter what it is, whether it's a maintenance day, or pitchers just don't have their stuff, or you're hitting the ball right at somebody. I mean, I saw a highlight of the game because I was watching it, but I was working, so I didn't actually pay complete attention. I turned it on, it was 1-1, then Boston went up 3-1, and I think it was only the second or third inning that Tampa Bay was behind at the end of an inning, in the fourth inning, I think it was. Then he scores 7 runs and blow the game open. And this team is firing on all cylinders right now, because one of the players, and I don't know who it was, he did a drag bunt with the bases loaded. Now, talk about the element of surprise. If there's ever an element of surprise, it's when the bases are loaded, because that's the last thing you think of with the bases loaded. You think, oh, somebody's going to drop a bunt. But everything's going right. And I don't know if that was a planned thing. It was just the batter saying, you know what? Fuck it. Whatever it was, it worked. It continued the big inning, and it totally demoralized the Red Sox. And I mean, you would think that things will start balancing out, but Tampa Bay's always been up there, because they always seem to get the great players. They always seem to work it out with their analytics and everything like that. Analytics is both good and bad for the game. I lean more towards the bad, but in terms of Tampa Bay, who isn't in a great market in terms of the size, they're playing in a crappy stadium. I'll be talking about stadiums and expansion news. Another group wants to get into the race here for new expansion team. You figure the law of averages are going to come up in baseball, because baseball is the sport that has the law of averages without even taking into account load management or whatever you want to call it for baseball. But I don't know. It's just a surprising thing that, I mean, you remember last year with the Phillies, when September came around, even though they started shitting the bed a little bit, and we heard it for like 2 or 3 seasons in a row. Oh, the Phillies got a soft September. Well, they finally took advantage of it, even though it wasn't exactly taking advantage of it, but they got over the hump and got into the playoffs, and we saw what happened after that. But I'm a firm believer that the more you win in April, the less you need to win in September. And sometimes it just happens that you got another team on your ass, and that isn't necessarily the case right now. Could be the case after this weekend, after the Tampa Bay Toronto series at the renovated Rogers Center, formerly Skydome. You could have all kinds of, you could have a team 13-3 if Tampa Bay gets swept, and you'd have Toronto, who would be 11-4. I think they played. Did they play today? They still. Oh, they're still playing right now, so they could be 9-4. Actually, they're down 3-1 right now to Detroit, so they'll be 5 back already. But everything balances out in the long term. I mean, look at the Phillies last year. They were playing so horribly, and Joe Girardi got fired, and then they got a couple of nice winning streaks, a 9-game streak, and then a 7 or something like that. Next thing you know, they were back in the race, so to speak. But Tampa Bay has always been that team that always does that goes that extra mile to keep themselves in the race, to make up for the salary issues that they have, where they can't spend as much money as the Yankees or the Red Sox. The Orioles, they used to spend, but now they don't because the shine came off at Camden Yards, even though they did some renovations. They know how to win with the product that they have, with young talent. They know when to get rid of talent when they get too expensive. I mean, they know what to do. So Tampa Bay's 13-0. They go for the record tomorrow night in Toronto. But we'll see what happens with that. But it's first time since '87 since somebody started 13-0, and Atlanta did make the playoffs that year. Milwaukee did not. So we'll see what happens with everything that goes on here with that. So Tampa Bay goes 13-0, and maybe in a few years we could be having another team in the mountains of the United States. That is because Salt Lake City is looking to get one of those 2 expansion franchises that Rob Manfred is teasing that he wants to have, even though he wants to settle the stadium issues with Oakland and Tampa Bay first. And I'm just looking at something right here. Salt Lake City's elevation is 4,226 feet. So you are looking at having to build a stadium where the dimensions are a little bit larger, but maybe not as large as Coors Field, but you're still going to have the high air. And but Salt Lake City, they have a consortium led by the owner of the Utah Jazz, and they're planning to pursue a Major League Baseball franchise in the coming years. Now, you would think if it's selected, after all this trouble is resolved with Oakland and Tampa Bay, you would think that it's a perfect geographic rivalry with Arizona and also Colorado. Now, Big League Utah is a group headed by longtime Jazz owner Gail Miller. Will join Nashville's Music City Baseball and the Portland Diamond Project in lobbying to join the current 30 Major League Baseball organizations. Las Vegas, the prime destination for considered a prime destination for a franchise, has emerged as a strong candidate if Oakland relocates, which has been talked about for the last year or two. With the Vegas location, since I go to Vegas a couple of times a year, and I will be out there end of May. There's two locations that they're looking at that I know of. One is around the Rio, which is in that strip area, but a little bit off of the strip, but not too far. It's between Las Vegas Boulevard and US 15. So it's in that little area there that they may build there. And the other is right across from where I've been staying the last year or so, and that is at Bally's, which is across the street from the MGM Grand and the hotel I've been staying at lately, the Excalibur. But I didn't tell you what days I'm going to be in Vegas, so ha ha ha. But sources have said MLB does not plan to expand until it figures out the futures of Oakland and Tampa Bay, both of whom have considered moving amid struggles to secure new stadiums in their current metropolitan areas. Manfred said that to ESPN last July. And he's also said, I would love to get to 32 teams. Now, whether that means you get rid of interleague play, or I mean, I've heard suggestions that you just go with 16 teams in the East, 16 teams in the West, especially now because Major League Baseball this year has turned into an NBA or NHL type schedule where everybody has to play everybody at least once, which is horrible in my opinion, because I like a World Series where you get the intrigue, even though you have interleague play, where you have situations where teams don't play each other in the regular season. Or you had an intriguing situation with the Phillies and the Astros, where they played the last series of the year, went to the playoffs, and ended up meeting in the World Series. So that's never been done before, and probably see that in the next few years happen a couple times, because we not only do we have interleague play all year round, you have everybody playing everybody, where the Phillies already played. They've already played the Rangers and the Yankees on this road trip that they just started tonight with a glorious thud. Thought they were on the Cincinnati. Yeah, they were on the Cincinnati to lose again. They go to Chicago, not to face the Cubs, but the White Sox. Interesting thing there. So, but Steve Starks, who's the CEO of the Miller Company, not Miller Beer, Miller Company, because this is it goes to the Larry H. Miller Company. It's an automobile magnate in the Salt Lake City area. They said Salt Lake City is a major city. We believe that is a top 30 media market in the fastest growing state in the country with the youngest population. That's where our attention should be, that we should accomplish bringing a team to the Wasatch Front. Now, if they think it will work, do it. I don't know what the plan would be. But it does say here that this consortium that's looking to bring a major league franchise to Salt Lake City, they already own the AAA Salt Lake City Bees, or the Salt Lake Bees, which is the AAA affiliate of the LA Angels. Now, a little shocking when I read this. Their average attendance last year was 5,873, which ranks 18th, which is the 18th highest in minor league baseball. But they're building a new stadium set to open in 2025. So I'm wondering, are they going to make it big enough, or can they do something where they can actually expand upon it? Like, for example, even though we're comparing apples and oranges here in different sports, you look at Subaru Park in Chester, home of the Philadelphia Union. Wearing my Union shirt today, not because the Union won last night down in Mexico. And, oh, by the way, play Chicago on Saturday against the Union. They had to play in altitude and then have to go to Chicago. Nah. But the Union Stadium, Subaru Park, even though it doesn't look like it, it is expandable. It is expandable, and you can make that into a 35, 40,000 seat stadium if you really wanted to, because they were looking into it, Subaru Park, a few years ago, because Villanova was thinking about going into the Big East, or when they were thinking about changing conferences, they were thinking about going to FBS instead of SCS where they're at now, which would have meant they would need a larger stadium. They can't play at the Link because that's Temple Stadium. Even though Temple tried to get their own stadium on campus, they can't do it. Villanova's campus stadium is too small. They would totally have to rebuild, which isn't going to happen. But I wonder if this is going to be a type of stadium where they can continue to build onto easy enough that they can turn like a 20,000 seat minor league stadium, like if you see the College World Series, they have a stadium that seats 25,000, 30,000. And I think there's a second stadium where the actual AAA team plays. So you got a couple of minor league stadiums out there in Omaha that are 20, 25,000. Whereas if you build a 20,000 seat stadium for the Salt Lake Bees, it's possible that you could have a 20, 25,000 seat stadium, and then as you're getting ready for the expansion, which probably I'm guessing about 2030, 2035, who knows? I'm just throwing numbers out there. Who knows? And we may never get that in Manfred's lifetime, Manfred's leadership, finger quotes. But it'd be interesting to see, because you would have a second city that would be close to a mile up. I mean, it will bloat the stats some, but I'm sure they'll have a humidor there, even though the Coke sales will be horrible because of Mormonism, and you can't, even though they rescinded that for the most part, I believe. Mormonism, like the code of conduct that BYU used to have, you couldn't have caffeine, you couldn't have this, you couldn't have that. You had to go to the temple on Sundays. There's all different things that they have there that really makes things interesting. So, but they do regularly sell out. This ownership does sell out the Jazz Arena, which is Vivint Arena. I think they changed that name back again, but Salt Lake City is looking to get into the mix to be the 31st or 32nd team in Major League Baseball. And Mickey said here, I think MLB needs to go back to Canada. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I know Montreal wants baseball back. I know Mickey would rather it be in Vancouver because it'd be closer to him, and Seattle would have a natural geographic rivalry as opposed to being out in the middle of nowhere compared to the other teams in their division because, even though they're in the same division, it's a 2-hour flight to Oakland. It's a 3 to 4 hour flight to LA. It's about 4 to Houston. And I'm exaggerating with some of these numbers because I'm just going off the top of my head, but I mean, Seattle's in their own corner of the world, baseball world, so to speak. It's summertime, everybody in Philly. That's why I played in the summertime by Mungo Jerry to start the show tonight, because going to be hearing a lot of that this summer, even if I had the windows closed, because of the fact that living in the city like I do, you get assholes like that doing that. So, but if you remember a couple of years ago, Tampa Bay was looking to do a split schedule where they would play half their season in Tampa and half their season in Montreal. I think it was Major League. I think it was the union that said, "Nah, we ain't doing that." And it isn't fair to either side, because for the fans that are actually Tampa Bay fans, which is apparently 20,000, I mean, the fans that are there, they get shorted. The people in Montreal, they're going to want them for all 81 home games. They're getting shorted as well. Doesn't look good. So, it's really interesting to see who would get the Montreal franchise, whether it be an expansion or Tampa Bay goes up there. Oakland will probably go to Vegas. And that gives me an extra reason to go to Vegas once a year, especially if Major League Baseball does keep the round robin scheduling that they have starting this year. So you could see Oakland going to Vegas soon. I don't know how quickly they want to get out in Oakland, if they want to suck it up for a couple of years and play in the Las Vegas ballparks, which is their AAA affiliates stadium. Which if they move to Vegas, then the AAA team has to move out because they can't be in the same city. Some sort of a weird bylaw, even though the Yankees did have a minor league team in Staten Island, because they considered Staten Island its own city because it's a different borough or some shit like that. But the only real options that you really have if you wanted baseball in Canada would be Montreal or Vancouver. Because Vancouver, I mean, BC Place, they wouldn't play there, but unless you renovate the stadium and push the seats back and you have a stadium set up just like the old Metrodome, which US Bank Stadium a month or so ago replicated, because the University of Minnesota had conference games or non-conference games, whoever they were playing, they actually played in US Bank Stadium, which was interesting to me. And but I think Montreal will be the option if it goes to if a team moves to Canada. But nobody in Canada that we know of has said, "Hey, we want an expansion franchise." I think the only way they get it is if Tampa Bay moves to Montreal. But Tampa Bay may say, "You know what? They want to build a stadium in Nashville. Let us go to Nashville." But we'll see. But that was an interesting story that I saw the other day. That I saw, actually, I think it was earlier today. I saw it. No, it was yesterday. I printed it up today. But yeah, interesting things here, and it's expansion's still years away, and I say sometime in the 2030s. I mean, we're already in 2023, so I say by 2033 we'll have expansion, but that's just me guessing. Also, Got some Phillies talk here, other than the fact that they lost today. Um, and this is the I told you so segment of the show. Um, if you remember before the start of the season, I said, why not put Bryce Harper at first base? Now, I wonder if they were listening to my podcast or they were watching this stream or they caught this on YouTube. I suggested, why not put Bryce Harper at first base? He has a background as a catcher originally, as an amateur playing high school ball. Now, a lot of times, and you'll see this with JT Realmuto every once in a while, and a lot of catchers do this when they get older, their knees are getting real bad. They like to put him at first base. Now, because the Phillies lost Derek Hall for a couple of months with a thumb injury, and you lost Rhys Hoskins for the year, apparently somebody in the front office had to listen to my podcast because not many people were in with me on this. I said, why not put him at first base? He has a catcher's mentality. You know how to handle short hops. It's just a matter of working the footwork and getting used to ground balls and fly balls that are on the infield side of first base. So, but it's there was an interesting article in the Inquirer here, Philadelphia Inquirer. Now there's issues that are going to come up here as well. So Derek Hall's out for at least 2 months. And you have Alec Bohm playing third base, right? First base every once in a while. And you got Cody Clemens, who's a career 143 hitter. He's overmatched as a hitter. And actually, it was The Athletic who reports that Dave Dombrowski, within the past few days, pitched a concept. When he's ready to play defense again, it should be at first base. Now, Harper's the type of guy, he'll play anywhere. And if you remember, and I mentioned this before the start of the season, when they were ramping up for the start of the pandemic season in July 2020, Harper was trying to get Joe Girardi to have him play third base. Now, the way Harper is, he'll play left field again. He'll play whatever it is. Hey, you need me to play, I'll play. So, of course, you just got to get the okays that you can first do the hitting portion of it. Then when you're ready to field, make sure you can throw properly. And first base is usually the position that you put your weakest throwing arm there, because you don't have many throws you got to make of significance. Yeah, you do have to throw to second every once in a while, and I'm sure you can handle that no problem. But it's something interesting that came up over the last few days. Now, first, you have to remember, if he does get cleared to play in Major League games or even in a minor league assignment, he's going to be a designated hitter. Now, some people think that it'll mean that he's back in the lineup sooner. And if you remember, he was not placed on the 60-day DL. He was placed on the 15-day DL. So if his elbow was okay to play as a batter in Major League games, he would be playing right now. But we know he's not ready yet because in most cases, Tommy John is a 12-month ordeal for a pitcher. Now, for a hitter, you can get away with that. Now, I did ask my good friend Mike Abadir about a month ago, didn't Shohei Ohtani have Tommy John and he was DHing the whole year after he had the surgery? And he did say yes. So So it is possible you can just leave him as a designated hitter, but because of the need being there, and you're going to do whatever you can to have the team win, you get his bat back in the lineup, which brings even more fear, even though you haven't really been scaring everybody lately. You bring another big back to the lineup, you get all the guys back. Maybe you can make another run like last year, because truthfully, we knew that this first part of the season was going to suck ass because Juarez is down, Harper's down, Hoskins is now gone for the year. We knew about that a couple weeks ago. Hall's out now for a couple of months. It's horrible. Now, you could always put JT at first base if you really wanted to, but you only have 2 catchers on the roster. And it'd be interesting to see what they do there. And the great thing is you can keep him on the DL if you really wanted to, even though you'd be ready to hit. You may want to keep him on the DL if you really wanted to, but you may be forced into having him play as a designated hitter because the team is now 4-9. You may need him in his bat in the lineup, but if you can keep him out and get to a point where he has that rigorous throwing program and he gets the okay to start throwing, maybe you put him in a rehab assignment at Lehigh Valley. The people in Allentown will go batshit crazy again like they did last year when he came back from his thumb injury or wrist injury, one or the other. And, he can get used to throwing, learn first base even more, because I'm a firm believer that sometimes you learn from numerous people, not just one. Like, for example, with the job that I have, I said it when I was a manager to people that were reporting to me. I said it to my manager a couple of times. I said, sometimes I may not connect with person A, but person B will give me something that'll be worthwhile. Whereas in this case, even though basically you're being taught the same thing, a couple of different opinions doesn't hurt as long as they work hand in hand and they're cohesive. But if you're teaching 2 totally different things, it's not going to work. But I think the background that he has as a catcher is going to help him be quick to learn, like short hops and everything like that. And it's just a matter of him being able to throw the ball, and hopefully he'd be okay to throw the ball by Memorial Day, let's say. But I think they're going to do everything they can to get him back in the lineup as a bat and just as a designated hitter. But who knows? We'll see what happens with that as well. As Harper is starting to take balls at first base here, getting used to that, getting used to a new position, at least for, you would think, the second half of this year. But we'll see what happens with that. So, if you remember when I was talking to Penguin AZ Tuesday night, I said that if you extend the last call for beer sales to the end of the 8th inning, like the Milwaukee Brewers had done already, I said what you have to be careful of is the fact that there's less time to sober up between then and the end of the game. And that's part of the reason why they do it. Part of it also, hey, let's settle up our tills and get the fuck out as well. But mostly it's sobering up, leaving the stadium, not having any problems. Well, I woke up to this news alert on ESPN, and Matt Strom, who's a left-handed pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies, I wonder if he heard my podcast on Tuesday night as well, because even though several teams have amended their alcohol sale policies in response to shorter game times this season, pitcher Matt Strom is not a big fan of it. He joined a recent podcast, not mine, but if he wants to come on, feel free to join me. So pass that on to Matt Strom, pass it on to the Phillies organization, whatever. He disagreed with extending alcohol sales beyond the traditional seventh inning cutoff, citing common sense. Common sense? Holy shit, somebody mentioned the word common sense? Common sense and the safety of fans. Now, I didn't talk about common sense. Even me, Mr. Common Sense, didn't mention that term. But I was thinking about the safety of the fans, and not only the safety of the fans, the safety of the general public too, because, it only, like I said on Tuesday night, it only takes one person to say, oh shit, for organizations to say, oh shit, because, even though the tickets now are all electronic, you still can get paper tickets if you went to the ticket office. I know I did last year for a couple of games for the Phillies. I had one electronic ticket, and I go to my buddy Mike, want to go to any games this year? I'm at the game. He goes, this game and this game. I'm like, okay. So, because of the pitch clock and everything else, and the pace of play changes that we have, games right now are about 30 minutes quicker. So that means less time for alcohol, less to consume. Now, me personally, Crossing Broad, they're pushing to get the Phillies to go to the end of the eighth inning. I said, I had a rude comment. I said, if these fans are true alcoholics, let me see if I can find it here, because they probably deleted it, and probably banned me from their site. But let me see if I can find them here. Whoops. And I know this is great podcasting, by the way. And of course, I can't find it here, but apparently, this is in chronological order. Shit. Well, basically, what I said was, the alcoholics could get a break on their liver. And if they were true alcoholics, they would show up as soon as the gates open. Since Crossing Broad has been an irreverent site for years, even though it seems like they cleaned up a little bit. I'm not afraid to getting myself into trouble. I'm a believer that if you want to drink at the ballpark, first of all, why, when a beer's probably $20 a pop? I know my one friend that I went to high school with, he said, on Jamie Apote's Facebook page. Jamie Apote is a sports anchor here in Philadelphia, a weekend sports anchor. He said, I got a soda and a hot dog and it cost me $14. But, that's also accounting the soda tax here in Philadelphia, which needs to go away. But Matt Strom said, a little bit of common sense, you're putting people in danger. And he says, he said on the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast, the reason why we stopped in the seventh inning before was to give our fans time to sober up and drive home, correct? So now with a faster paced game, and me just being a man of common sense, if the game is going to finish quicker, will we not move the beer sales back to the sixth inning to give our fans time to sober up and drive home? Now he's actually going the opposite direction, saying, okay, well, since the games are finishing quicker, let's make the cutoff earlier. Well, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I understand what he's saying, where if you go later, it's less time to sober up before you get in your car and go home. Now, like I said on Tuesday night, you do have Uber, you do have Lyft. In Philadelphia, at least, you got the subway that can take you back to Center City to get you to wherever you're going. Now, at least 4 teams, Diamondbacks, Rangers, Twins, and Brewers, have extended alcohol sales through the 8th inning. Others, such as the Marlins and Mets, will stop after the 7th inning, but haven't ruled out changes. Now, me, I wouldn't change it at all, because guess what? It only, like I said Tuesday and I said earlier tonight, it only takes one person to drive drunk, kill somebody, and then you trace their phone or you trace their paper ticket. And it's like, aha, it's possible he got drunk at the Phillies game, at the Mets game, at the Yankees game, at the Pirates game. Well, not the Pirates. They're a horrible team, even though they've been winning so far this year. But the thing is, the billionaires are looking to get more money any way possible. Now, this is the thing that I mentioned to another one of my high school friends. He actually writes on Crossing Broad, and it was actually his Facebook post. I don't think it was a Crossing Broad story, but I said, if I had one less beer at the game, so let's say $20. You know, who knows what a beer is in other stadiums, but let's go with a round number of $20. 20 more dollars in your pocket. Okay, you might be able to get a ticket for another game, maybe. Or in my case, you can use it at the casino. like when AJ, Duncan Dad, and I went to the casino, back to live casino after the game. You could get all these, I mean, you can recycle that money in different ways. And, I say recycling as in, because I'm a horse racing junkie. And, if you win, or even playing the slots, you can reinvest that money, or throw it back into the machine, or throw it back on the horses and lose your money. You can redistribute that money in different ways. I mean, even if you have your kids there, oh, well, we can't get Johnny that baseball hat that he wanted because we got to get out of the stadium before they kick us out, because the game was so much quicker and I forgot to get it earlier in the day. So you can actually spend that money in different ways, even though it's not the way that some people want it, which is through alcohol sales, through beer sales, through food, through concessions, whatever. But I'm looking at a different light, because guess what? It's a quicker game. I want to come back to the ballpark, because guess what? Instead of sitting here for 4.5 hours, including pregame, I'm only sitting for 3.5. And it's much more pleasant thing sitting through quicker ball game. But some things to remember here: Major League Baseball does not regulate when teams sell alcohol, but most franchises have used that 7th inning as a cutoff, at least partly to avoid over-serving customers who could then get in their cars and drive home. That's what I'm concerned about with people. people drinking too much. And, and also, if you really think about it, if somebody really wants one more beer and they tell them, oh, he's been overserved, the one thing is, if you really think about it, let's say it's me, it's AJ, it's Duncan Dad, and it's the Penguin AZ. All four of us are at the game. I don't drink. And insert other bleacher brother who has been overserved. It won't be me because I don't drink. Somebody said, you're too drunk, I'm not selling this to you. Whoever it is comes to me and says, hey, buy me the beer. But don't go behind home plate to that stand, because that was the stand that refused my sale. And with the way that concessions are at the ballpark, you have numerous spots where you can get beer, numerous spots you can get hot dogs, and then you have those specialty foods that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago. That, like, for example, like Phillies have crab fries there. They have a cheesesteak place. They have that Uncle Charlie's, which I'm avoiding like the plague because I might lose all my brain cells. But you have all these things that, you can go to another one, and what the stand behind home plate doesn't, what the person behind home plate, what they know, the person out by the left field corner, they don't know that I'm buying for whomever because they got refused at behind home plate. They don't know I'm buying for that other person, especially if I'm, just whatever. And especially if so-and-so, whoever is the person that's been overserved, doesn't drive. Because if that person was driving, I'd say, you're on your own, buddy. I'm not getting you a beer. But you got to be very careful with this. You hear about people being overserved all the time. And also, I like watching On Patrol Live on Reels TV. That was the show that used to be Live PD on A&E. And you see a couple of times a show, or at least a couple of times a weekend, where they have somebody doing a sobriety test and they fail miserably. Now, I'll tell you one thing. If I got stopped for a sobriety test, even though I haven't had a drink in 6 years, I guarantee you I would fail the sobriety test, because I don't have coordination sober half the time. I can't do the touch the nose thing, or walk in a straight line, or count the 9, do 9 steps, turn around, do 9 steps, whatever shit they do. I would fail miserably. And then you would have a major lawsuit because I never had a drink. But that's the concern that I have, and it's nice to know that at least somebody is looking out for the health and well-being of fans, and also the general public, because it isn't necessarily one fan hitting another fan who's leaving the stadium. It could be a person on the interstate 20 miles from the ballpark, or 5 minutes from home, if home's like 45 minutes away from the stadium. It can happen anywhere. You think a light's green, it's been red the whole time, you mistake the brake for the gas accelerator pedal, boom. I mean, why take the chance? I mean, I salute Matt Strom for thinking about the general public, because guess what? There's other ways that you can turn that money, can recycle that money. Another game. Maybe you take your friend to a game. Then they got 2 tickets, two double tickets. You get the idea. It's more than just a beer, but some people, and no two people handle alcohol consumption the same. You know, one person will be one beer and they'll be drunk off their ass, and it may take me 5 or 6 beers. Be a lot less now because I haven't had a drink in 6 years, but you get the idea because it's all body weight, it's food consumption with the alcohol. There's so many factors involved. So, but kudos to Matt Strom, who looking out for the fans and saying that extending last call for beer to the 8th inning is a bad idea. I said it Tuesday, and that would be the case. He feels the same way I do, thankfully. So good for him for speaking up on that podcast. And if he wants to come on this podcast, all he has to do to come to nofilter.net, can knock, well, when there's an off day, because Phillies were in Cincinnati and, whatever. But you can always go to the bottom right-hand side, click on that fist. I bring you in. We talk. Tell me what you think. Ask me questions. We go back and forth. More of a conversation than an interview, because I don't believe in interviews. I believe in conversations. So, and the neighbors upstairs are home because I can hear them. So the Flyers are up 4-3 right now. Thankfully, they're done after tonight. Stars did defeat the Blues 1-0. Mickey did say that in the chat. And we're getting ready for the greatest playoffs in sports, the NHL playoffs. But I'm just looking to see if there's anything that I missed here before we call it a night here. And we'll know what are the final two teams in the NBA playoffs tomorrow night. Houston. Atlanta got in as the 7th seed. They defeated Miami. Miami will be playing Chicago, who won in Toronto last night. Then the Lakers are the 7 team, or the 7 seed. They will be taking on Memphis, I believe it is. Let me double check that here. Yeah, Lakers take on Memphis. And then we have Minnesota and Oklahoma City for the last West spot. Oklahoma City defeated the Pelicans in New Orleans last night, eliminating them. Oklahoma City getting too good too quick, maybe. But they do have a treasure trove of first-round picks over the next few years. And be interesting to see what happens with that. Kraken on ESPN. Maybe I'll watch some of that later on tonight. Maybe I'll watch it while I'm creating the audio file that I upload for the podcast listeners that I have here. But yeah, it's a great time of the year. Got the NBA playoffs starting on Saturday. The NHL playoffs, I don't know, do they start Sunday or Monday? Let me see if I can find that out here real quick. Um, yeah, it doesn't say. Okay. But Tuesday? Okay. Yeah, I admit I haven't really watched much hockey this year because of the fact that the Flyers sucked. Um, and I don't think I put one hockey wager this year. Um, Usually I'm dialed in on hockey. Um, I get a little dialed in on hockey. In March, I get dialed in on those conference tournaments. Made some nice coin there. Been thrown a little bit back, but it happens. I always believe that you're going to have hot streaks, you're going to have cold streaks. It's minimize the cold streaks, maximize the hot streaks, and know when to stop as well, because I'm always a believer of that. So be interesting to see. I mean, it's a great time of the year. Baseball just started. You had the Masters last week. Um, NBA playoffs start this weekend. The NHL playoffs are this weekend or next week. Um, I guess we'll get the schedules tomorrow because I think, let me look at the standings here. Yeah, so Colorado plays Nashville tomorrow, which is a makeup game. Um, that game will determine the Central Division champion and who plays who uh, with Colorado and Dallas. Colorado wins, they'll end up with 109 points. Dallas has 108 after their win tonight. But the number one overall seed in the West, as of right now, is the Vegas Golden Knights. They are playing tonight. Matter of fact, Vegas is playing Seattle. Okay. And that game has not started yet, from what I see. And Edmonton is playing right now. And Edmonton is up 4-2 after 2. So it looks like, I guess since the division has not been decided yet, it looks like if Edmonton wins and Vegas loses, Edmonton gets the top seed. But I don't know all the tiebreakers off the top of my head like I do in the NFL. So, but it's a great time. You got basketball playoffs, hockey playoffs, baseball just started. Even though my Phillies are in the toilet already, got the Kentucky Derby in 3 weeks. Okay, so Mickey has confirmed that the playoffs do start on Monday. Okay, thank you, Mickey. Yeah, because it's all bit um, I mean, the way that the NBA playoffs are, we know the season ends on Sunday. You had the play-in tournament for a couple of days, and then, oh, by the way, on Saturday, here's where we start. And that's what they've been doing the last few years since they started this play-in tournament, which they have done. So, but yeah, it's a fun time of the year. Actually, been a fun couple of months with March Madness, and now baseball starting, and NHL and NBA playoffs, and before we know it, the NFL will be back, and I'll be making my picks. So I'm going to give you 2 picks here. I gave both of them out already, but I'm going to give them to you again. Take Toronto over Tampa Bay in baseball. I don't know if there's any type of a line here, so I can give you a clue. Um, Okay, Toronto was plus 100. So for the sake of the Friday fade, Toronto plus 100. And you know what? That's what I'll give for this show. Tomorrow, I'll give you an updated odds for the Chicago Philadelphia Union matchup. Um, Philadelphia Union did advance to the CONCACAF League semifinals. And the way CONCACAF works is it's just like all the other soccer leagues in the different continents, where think of it as you have all these different leagues around our continent, and the top teams from each league qualify for this tournament. And it's single elimination, and you play two games, and whoever has the most goals in those two games win. In the case on last night, the Union went into the game up 1-0. So if the game ended up 0-0, they would have won. It ended up being a 2-2 draw. So they actually technically won by 2 goals, if you think about it, because the tiebreaker in soccer is away goals scored. Club Atlas, which was the team that the Union was facing, did not score here in Philly, but the Union scored twice down in Mexico. So if the score had been 3-2 Atlas, the Union would have advanced 3-3 on that tiebreaker. So, but then now we're going to get in a couple of weeks Philly and LAFC. We had the greatest soccer match in MLS history in the MLS Cup last year. And every time these two teams play, the matches are batshit crazy, and probably will be the case for 2 games in a couple of weeks as well. But in terms of the game on Saturday, Union and Chicago Fire, I'll give that pick tomorrow night on my audio only podcast. So I'm going with Toronto for tomorrow. The line is up from what I saw on Parks Bet Slip Builder, because that's what I reference for my picks. Take Toronto money line plus 100, double your money. So, and that is basically it. Unless, let me just check one last thing here. Of course, one of my friends says, "Fuck Josh Harris, sell the Sixers." You know, whatever. Okay, yeah. So that'll be it for now. About that time of the night where I let things be quiet, I get to hear that train 2 miles away from me, or whatever. You know what I mean? But it looks like the Stars will play the Kraken. As of right now, Mickey, that is the case, because they are the first wild card, so they would get the Central Division winner, because that champion will have less points than the Golden Knights or the Edmonton Oilers right now. Now, if Edmonton wins, Vegas loses, and Colorado wins, your guess is as good as mine. And I don't know the format for the tiebreakers here. I believe it's regulation wins. That's the first tiebreaker, and that would be Edmonton with 44. So that's what it looks like to me. And if I'm wrong, so be it. But Colorado still has a chance to win their division tomorrow night, even though the season is technically over tonight. They still have to play that one game because of the weather issues earlier in the season. So right now it's Kraken and Stars. Yeah, I haven't seen anything from Miss Robin or Tony I would imagine they're okay. But yeah, that stuff's going to be coming up the coast on Saturday, I believe it is. It's going to hit me. Not the way it's been hitting South Florida and everything else with 2 feet of rain. I mean, there's hurricanes that pass by that don't dump 2 feet of rain like this storm has, and it's just sitting there and it's just spinning and spinning and spinning, and that portion of the storm is just feeding South Florida as well. So, um, yeah, because I admit I haven't had time to look at their pages. Um, it's just that I've been, I'm so busy from about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning to 2 in the morning, usually when I go to bed. So, um, I think the East is set. Um, yeah, the East is set. It's just that you have a couple of games that could affect the standings in the West. Um, Vegas and Seattle, that game would determine who wins the Pacific Division. The game tomorrow night with Colorado and Nashville, that will determine who wins the Central Division as well. So, um, and then we have Sixers action on Saturday. First game first game is at 1 o'clock. Looking forward to that series. Apparently, when the Sixers last played Brooklyn 5 or 6 years ago, I said I'm going to take Brooklyn on the money line because I had a feeling that the Sixers are going to shit the bed. Well, the Sixers won that series. I think it was at 5. Um, yeah, I think the Sixers win this series. They got very lucky because it could have been Miami, and Miami owns the Sixers. Miami lives rent free in the Sixers' heads, and all because we didn't sign Jimmy Butler, in my opinion. And but it is what it is. So, just a reminder, I will be back Tuesday night, 9:15 Eastern. I will have an audio-only podcast. Probably be up a little after midnight because it doesn't look like there's any shows tomorrow. Tony's not scheduled. The last call is not scheduled. I haven't. I mean, the thing is with Tony being banned from Twitter. I would usually go on there and be like, okay, political, show related, okay, beyond. So that's what I would usually do. But now I got to scroll Miss Robbins, and I haven't had time to look at hers. I mean, I have hard enough time doing things around this apartment, and but I mean, coming up in the next 3 weeks, we'll have Kentucky Derby talk. We'll continue to talk baseball. We'll talk basketball. We'll talk hockey. I'm not. I don't follow basketball and hockey like I used to, but I could still bullshit through it. But so we have a little bit of that. Got Kentucky Derby. Got baseball. A lot of fun. A lot of stuff to talk about, and we'll even have some. We'll even have some of the usual banter that I have. Maybe I can find something. Matter of fact, let me pull something up here. This is the last thing I'm going to talk about. And this is going to be the stupid shit that I saw segment that I'm bringing back here. And let me go here. And this is something that happened this morning in Philadelphia. And I'm not going to be able to play the video per se, but I can tell you about this. So apparently there was an unattended tractor trailer at a Walmart in Northeast Philadelphia, up at Philadelphia Mills Mall, the mall formerly known as Franklin Mills, formerly known as Liberty Bell Racetrack, where the horses used to run. It's not far from my racetrack, Parks Racing. But apparently it was a dime and dash, not dine, D-I-N-E, D-I-M-E and dash. Now, I think there was more than just dimes there because I did see this story on the news. And in this story that I saw in the news while I was working, they're cleaning up all the coins. And I could see like there were pennies in there and all that. They broke into an unmarked tractor trailer that contained about $750,000 in dimes near Franklin Mills Boulevard. And Franklin Mills Boulevard is just this access road to get you from Academy Road on the one side to the other end of the shopping complex where Woodhaven Road is that takes you to 95. So they don't know how much has been taken. They believe that $100,000 was taken in coins. Now, the truck was headed to Florida from the Mint in Old City. The driver picked up the coins from the Mint in Old City on Wednesday and drove to the Northeast where he lives. Oh, okay. So now I know what's going on here because authorities say he parked the trailer in a parking lot and went home to get rest. It's not clear if he'll face charges. The driver said that's not common practice to leave a trailer unattended. They don't believe the driver was targeted, but said while the details of this case are bizarre, cargo thefts are common. And now what I was figuring at first there with this crazy story is, now I'm sure you guys would know this. If you go to Walmart, you go to your local supermarket, you know those Coinstar machines, those green machines where you can take your coins and cash them in for a gift certificate, or if you're stupid enough to pay the 11% fee or whatever it is, you can get a voucher where you can cash it in so you can shop in the supermarket. I thought because Walmart does have these kiosks where you can dump all your change in, I thought it was from that. But here, apparently, it was a guy who lived in Northeast Philly, left it unattended. Bad move, no matter what it is. What's wrong with people? You know, I mean, I understand you need rest because you're going from here to Miami or wherever you're going in Florida. Bad idea. And like Matt Strom, it's about common sense. And in this case, you know, he thought he can get away with it, sleep a couple hours, get on the road right at 6 o'clock because Woodhaven's Road is right there. You can get right to 95. But stupid people do stupid things, and that's what happened there. And that is the stupid shit that I saw for this show. And that will be it for me tonight. So do want to thank everybody that joined me. GWK joined tonight. Thank you for joining me tonight. Mickey was in here. Penguin AZ was in here. Stephen Luker I saw in here. So we have 4 or 5 different people in here. Do appreciate everybody chatting in the chat. And if you're going to come over to No Filter and join me, there's a couple of different options that you can talk to me. You can talk to me in the chat, which is, you know, what I prefer when I'm not hosting my show. But, you know, you can always hop on. You can crack the mic. You could crack the video camera as well. I get to see you. You get to see me. Well, you get to see me the whole however long I talk. I do apologize that, you know, I'm probably breaking your monitor at this time, but, you know, it's all about having fun here. So I do want to thank everybody who took the time to join me tonight. And let's do it again Tuesday night, 9:15 p.m. right here on No Filter. You've been watching and listening to the Philly Guy Speaks. here on NoFilter.net, part of the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. Good night, everybody.